in the 7th wave, which was approximately 30 minutes after the initial landing.
I see, and I imagine things were pretty hot on the beach there, weren't they, when you first came in?
Yes, there was quite a few snipers and quite a few machine guns shooting at us when we come in, and the best insurance we had was a deep foxhole.
I bet it was. Tell me, what was your principal job in the Leyte operation?
The principal job was to coordinate between the ground and the air, and in this, we, the assault troop, and pick out targets, the enemy emplacements, and so forth. And we bring in the Navy planes from carriers, and they are the ones that come down and wipe these targets out so that assault troops themselves can move forward.
In other words, you get up in the advanced lines there and spot the enemy positions and concentrations of their troops, and then you get the word directly to the Navy aviation units, and then they do the heavy work. Is that right?
That's right, Sergeant Swedell. As we move everything up forward, we have a radio that we can carry, and from there we directly have communications to a command ship.
I see. And then the planes pick up the information from there.
Right.
Tell me this. Did you have pretty good evidence of the effectiveness of the aviation bombardment?
Yes, the evidence showed in themselves, but how many nips were scattered around and so on.
Well, how many do you think you got that first day there? I understand that there, in 1 hour and a half of a particular operation, you really scored heavily.
Yes, in that first hour and a half, the first strike that we made, and it lasted from 8 in the morning till 9:35. And in that, there was exterminated somewhere around 1,400 Japanese. But we pocketed into the coconut plantation just off to the south of our own frontline troops, and they never had a chance from there on.
1,400 in about an hour and a half's operation. Well, that is really scoring. I understand there was about 2,400 altogether. Where did you pick up the other 1,000?
Well, the other 800 were back in the hills.
Or rather 800, I should have said.
The 800 were back in the hills, back of our first objective on the reverse side of the slopes, which is duck meat for our planes.
Naturally.
And we saw these down there and sent the Navy planes in on those with the coordination and so on we give them. And later it was counted up that there was 800 dead Japs down in that area.
That's really scoring altogether then. Well, Lieutenant Sisler, I understand that you and the sergeant here had a rather interesting experience in a rather tight scrape during the second day of the battle at Leyte. Would you mind giving us your story and telling us about it?
Well, it was rather a peculiar situation. One evening on the second day, we decided to go back to the beach to get our packs and some food.
You've been working forward as observers at that time?
Yes, we'd been forward all the time. And there was one amphibious tractor that was making run between the beach and the headquarters, which brought up food and water and so on, and we were going to ride back on that. Well, after we were inside of this, they told us that they were going to out and wipe out this machine gun nest. And this machine gun nest was in the last 4 houses of Paul Wing. Paul Wing is a little village which about 1,500 yards inland from the beach on number 1 highway, which runs between Palau and Tocloban. Palau and Tocloban. We got down here, we finished just 4 houses off in short order, and the driver decided to go down further forward along this highway. Along this highway there was all kinds of nips in the side of the road in the foxholes, and I think Sergeant DeMill can tell you more about that than I can, because I was too busy forward.
What'd you see, Sergeant?
Well, the nips were well dug in along the sides of the road, And while going down the road, we had the machine guns trained right on the foxholes. We're blasting the nips out all the time. After we'd gone out about 800 yards, a nip either through a landmine, or there was one already in the road. It blew the tread off our track. So there we were, out in the 800 yards in front of the front lines, with nothing but except our track there.
What'd you do then?
Well, after we all came to, or should say, came out of the daze.
Was anybody wounded or just stunned?
No wounded. It was just kind of in a daze for a while. We all came to and started shooting then. We had quite a time for a little while, but outside of that, all was all right.
Well, how was your gunfire? Did you get in a few good licks on the nips?
Yes, we got in some very good licks on them. We cut down quite a few that were in real close.
Were you surrounded at the time?
Yes, we were completely surrounded. They were on both sides of the roads, both forward and back of us, and out in the swamp on either side of the road.
How many nips do you think you got all together, you and the lieutenant?
Well, I wouldn't say how many we got all together, but I got 4 with a carbine, and the lieutenant got 4 with his Tommy gun, 1 with his revolver, and how many we got with the machine guns, we don't know. We couldn't very well count them.
Well, it was a pretty good day's hunting, though, altogether, and I guess you got yourself out of the trap that was set up there pretty effectively then.
Yes, very well. They sent another Amtrak up after us and took us down to the beach that night.
Well, I understand before you got picked up, though, the Japs tried to pull a number of tricks on you, camouflaging themselves. What happened? Give us an idea of that, Lieutenant Sisler.
Well, there was a stream along off the side of this half track and side of the road, and it was rather a slow, sluggish running stream. And they would come into that, and they would either lay on the bank or be submerged inside underneath the water where we couldn't see them. Only thing that'd be up would be reeds stuck out of their helmets, and it looked like they were just growing there until we got onto that and sort of fixed them up.
Sergeant, I understand the good lieutenant kind of proved himself a dead-eyed shot on several nips. That true?
That is right, yes. He shot one very nicely with the revolver. It was in real close, and his Tommy gun was really effective.
Sergeant DeMill, you were saying a moment ago how you were finally rescued just when things were getting pretty hot there by another amphibious tractor. Tell us what happened.
They sent up another amphibious tractor and to get us out, just as there was a bunch of nips about 200 yards off underneath a house, and they were firing on us then. They sent this Amtrak up. It pulled up alongside the road, and we climbed from the one to the other in very short order.
The nips still firing at you?
Yes, the nips were still firing. Then we threw grenades in our own Amtrak, tried to demolish it. It didn't seem to do much good. Beach, where we stayed that night.
I understand the nips try to take over your old Amtrak there and use it as a pillbox or something, that right?
Yes, that's right. We had to blast them out with bazookas the next day.
Well, after you got back to the beach, what happened then?
Well, we were lucky, got aboard an LST that night, had a good night's sleep.
Which I imagine after 2 days of tough going was pretty welcome, right?
That is right.
Lieutenant Sisler, I imagine it was quite a thrill when you stopped to realize that you were with the forces, the very first forces, to land back in the Philippines and the drive to take them from the Japs who have held them since the start of the war. Is that right?
Yes, it's rather a great feeling to feel that we're one of the very few Marines that hit on that island. I know there isn't one of the outfits that wouldn't want to have hit and wouldn't relish it, and I'm very glad that, for one, that I was lucky enough to be on that drive. I'm sure that Sergeant DeMill feels the same way.
Is that right?
That's right.
Thank you, Lieutenant Sisler and Sergeant DeMill. From somewhere in the Central Pacific, you have heard an interview with Lieutenant Arthur L. Sisler of Lyons, Colorado, and Sergeant Floyd L. DeMill of Ephraim, Utah. Two men from a detachment of 27 members of a Marine Assault Communication Unit who took part in the initial landing on the island of Leyte in the Philippines. This is Sergeant Edward C. Stodell, a Marine Corps combat correspondent reporting from an advanced Pacific base. We return you now to the United States.